Welcome to my channel. Subscribe and enjoy daily stories about cheating, revenge, and relationship advice. My life had become a predictable loop, with work at the bank consuming most of my days. The job was monotonous, and the routines were stifling. Each evening, I sank into my couch, watched reruns, or skimmed through books that promised more excitement than they delivered. So, when Alex and Taylor, two of my more vibrant colleagues, approached me at my desk one Friday afternoon, I was taken aback. Alex, with his ever-present grin and lively energy, was the first to speak. "Hey, man. We're hitting the town tonight. Why don't you join us?" he asked, eyes sparkling with mischief. Taylor, the more laid-back of the two but equally enthusiastic, chimed in, "Yeah, it'll be fun. We're going to check out this new bar. It's supposed to be great." I glanced at them skeptically. I wasn't used to these kinds of invitations. "I don't know. I usually just stay in on weekends." "Oh, come on," Alex insisted, leaning closer. "It's been ages since you've done anything outside of work. It'll be good for you. Besides, you might actually enjoy it." Taylor added, "We could use a bit of your dry humor to balance things out. We promise not to drag you into anything too crazy." I hesitated. The idea of stepping out of my comfort zone was intimidating, but there was something enticing about the spontaneity of it all. Maybe it was the monotony of my routine pushing me to take a chance. "All right," I said finally, "I'll come. But if things get too wild, I'm out." That evening, I found myself at the bar with Alex and Taylor. The place was packed, the air thick with laughter and music. Alex and Taylor were already in their element, weaving through the crowd with an infectious energy. They spotted me and waved me over. "Welcome to the party," Alex shouted over the noise. "We've got a table reserved. Come on, let's get drinks." I followed them to the table, where Taylor had already secured a spot. "Glad you made it," he said, patting the seat next to him. "We were starting to think you'd bail on us." I took a seat, trying to relax as the vibrant atmosphere enveloped me. The first round of drinks arrived quickly, and I found myself easing into the evening. Alex and Taylor kept the conversation lively, their enthusiasm pulling me along. "So," Alex began as we clinked glasses, "what do you do to unwind, besides your usual couch routine?" I laughed, though it felt awkward. "Mostly just watch TV or read. Nothing too exciting." "Sounds like you need to live a little," Taylor said, raising his glass. "Tonight's about breaking out of your shell. Trust me, it'll be worth it." The evening progressed with laughter and conversation. Alex and Taylor's energy was contagious, and I found myself enjoying the night more than I had expected. We danced, joked around, and for the first time in a long while, I felt genuinely alive. As the night wore on, Alex suggested we head to another bar. "There's this place a few blocks away that's supposed to have amazing live music," he said. "What do you think?" I was hesitant. The night had been fun, but I was ready to head home. Yet, their excitement was persuasive. "All right," I agreed. "One more stop. But after that, I'm calling it a night." We left the bar and moved through the bustling city streets. I was slightly tipsy but in good spirits. We arrived at the second venue, a lively spot with a vibrant crowd. It was as if the city was alive, and I was part of its pulse. The last thing I remember clearly was the buzz of the music and the laughter of my companions. When I woke up the next morning, it was to an unsettling realization: my wallet, phone, and other valuables were gone. Panic surged through me as I searched my apartment. The emptiness was overwhelming. The joyous night had turned into a nightmare. I felt a mix of anger and shame, and the thought of Alex and Taylor's seemingly innocent invitation now felt like a cruel twist of fate. I had been naive, but I was determined to set things right. My one attempt to break free had left me with more questions than answers, and I needed to find a way to reclaim my stolen possessions and restore my sense of security. The sight of my empty apartment had left me reeling. My initial anger was quickly replaced by a burning desire for retribution. I knew I had to act quickly, so I reached out to Max, my old high school friend who had become a private investigator. Max had always been sharp, and I hoped he could help me untangle this mess. We met at a small, cozy coffee shop on a crisp Saturday morning. The place was quiet, a stark contrast to the turmoil in my mind. Max arrived punctually, his presence as reassuring as ever despite the years since we'd last seen each other. "Hey, Max," I greeted him as he approached. "Thanks for meeting me on such short notice." "No problem," Max said, sliding into the seat across from me. "You sounded pretty rattled on the phone. What's going on?" I took a deep breath and recounted the events of the previous night. As I spoke, Max's expression shifted from concern to focus. When I finished, he leaned back and considered the situation. "So, let me get this straight," Max said, tapping his fingers on the table. "You went out with Alex and Taylor, had a great time, and now you've discovered they've stolen your stuff. Sounds like they planned this from the start." "That's what I'm afraid of," I replied, nodding. "I don't know what their endgame is, but I need to get my belongings back and stop them from doing this to anyone else." Max's eyes narrowed as he considered our next steps. "Alright, first things first. I'll need to dig into their backgrounds, see if there's any pattern or other victims. I know a few contacts who can help with that. Let's see what we're dealing with." Max's efficiency was impressive. Within a few hours, he'd gathered enough information to paint a clearer picture of Alex and Taylor. It turned out they were part of a broader scam operation, targeting unsuspecting individuals and using their stolen data to orchestrate more elaborate heists. "This is worse than I thought," Max said, showing me the results of his investigation. "These two aren't just petty thieves. They're part of a network that's been moving from city to city. And look at this, they've got another job lined up in New York." My heart sank. "They're already planning their next heist. We have to stop them before they can strike again." Max nodded. "Exactly. We'll need to get to New York, figure out where they're going, and stop them. It won't be easy, but I've got a few tricks up my sleeve." We made plans to head to New York the following morning. The city's sprawling landscape felt like a daunting challenge, but Max was confident we could track Alex and Taylor down. As we prepared for the trip, Max was already in touch with his network, setting up surveillance and gathering as much intel as possible. On the train to New York, Max and I went over the details of our plan. We needed to locate Alex and Taylor's hideout and catch them in the act. "Remember, we're not just looking for them," Max said, his voice steady. "We need to gather evidence to ensure they're brought to justice. We've got to be smart about this." "Got it," I replied, trying to steady my nerves. "I just want to make sure they pay for what they did." Max placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "We'll get them. Just stick with me, and we'll handle this." The train ride felt like it took forever, each minute dragging as I thought about the task ahead. When we finally arrived in New York, the city's vibrant energy seemed to mirror the intensity of our mission. We were about to dive into a world of deceit and danger, but with Max's expertise, I felt a glimmer of hope amidst the uncertainty. Our first step was to track down Alex and Taylor's known associates, using the leads Max had gathered. We needed to stay one step ahead to prevent them from executing their heist. The stakes were high, and the challenge was daunting, but I was determined to see this through and reclaim my sense of justice. New York City was a whirlwind of lights and noise, a stark contrast to the predictable calm of my usual life. Max and I navigated the city's chaos, our eyes and ears open for any sign of Alex and Taylor. We followed leads, interrogated informants, and used every resource at our disposal to track them down. By the third day, we had a solid lead. An informant from Max's network had tipped us off about a rundown warehouse on the outskirts of Brooklyn. The place was rumored to be a hub for various criminal activities, and it fit the profile of where Alex and Taylor might be laying low. We approached the warehouse in the late afternoon, the setting sun casting long shadows over the graffiti-covered walls. The area was deserted, adding an eerie silence to the growing tension. Max and I stayed hidden behind a stack of crates, surveying the scene. Looks like they're in there, Max said, peering through a small gap in the wooden planks of the warehouse's side door. I see some movement inside. I nodded, trying to steady my racing heartbeat. What's the plan? Max pulled out a small radio. I've already called in some backup. We'll wait until they're deep into their operation, then move in and catch them red-handed. We need to make sure we have solid evidence. We settled into our positions, keeping watch. From our vantage point, we could see Alex and Taylor inside, bustling around with what appeared to be stolen goods. They were focused, seemingly preparing for another big heist. The sight of them in action only fueled my determination. An hour later, Max signaled that the backup was in position. We waited for the right moment, our nerves taut with anticipation. The warehouse door creaked open as the authorities moved in, their footsteps muffled by the thick layer of grime on the floor. Time to make our move, Max whispered, and we slipped inside. The scene was chaotic. Alex and Taylor, caught off guard, scrambled to hide their loot. The sound of police commands filled the air as officers moved in to secure the area. I caught sight of Alex trying to escape through a side door, but I intercepted him. Alex! I shouted, grabbing his arm. It's over. You're done. Alex's eyes widened in surprise and anger. You! How did you find us? Does it matter? I retorted. You're under arrest for theft and fraud. Taylor, cornered by another officer, glared at me with a mixture of frustration and defeat. You think this is the end? You have no idea what's coming. Max approached, his demeanor calm but resolute. We've got them, he said into his radio. Make sure you gather all the evidence. We need to ensure they face justice for everything they've done. As Alex and Taylor were led away in handcuffs, I felt a sense of relief. The tension of the past few days was finally giving way to a feeling of accomplishment. But even as the immediate threat was subdued, I couldn't shake a nagging sense of unease. Why does this feel too easy? I asked Max as we watched the scene unfold. Max's expression was thoughtful. Sometimes it's the calm before the storm. We need to be thorough and make sure we have everything locked down. If they were this organized, they might have contingencies. As we left the warehouse, I glanced back at the scene, the satisfaction of capturing Alex and Taylor tempered by an underlying concern. There was something about the whole situation that didn't sit right with me, and I had a sinking feeling that the resolution might be more complex than it appeared. The next steps were crucial. We had to ensure that Alex and Taylor faced full accountability for their actions and uncover any hidden layers of their operation. The victory felt incomplete, and I knew the real challenge was far from over. The warehouse bust was only the beginning. Max and I spent the next few hours at the precinct, giving statements and reviewing the evidence that had been collected. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful, with officers and detectives busy at work. The sense of justice was palpable, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Max and I were finally allowed to review the evidence seized from Alex and Taylor's hideout. We went through stacks of documents, electronic devices, and personal items. The more we examined, the more the unease grew. This is strange, Max said, flipping through a pile of papers. There's a lot of stuff here about financial institutions and high-profile targets. I glanced over at him, my brow furrowed. What do you mean? Isn't that what they were planning? It's not just planning, Max replied. They've been collecting personal data. Look at this, he pointed to a folder labeled Leverage. These documents have personal information from a lot of people, including yours. I felt a chill run down my spine. What are you saying? They used my data for something else. Max's expression grew more serious. Exactly. They were using stolen data to facilitate another heist. They were planning to hit a major financial institution in New York, and your information was part of their strategy. I was stunned. So, all along, I was part of their operation without even knowing it. Max nodded. It looks that way. And from what I'm seeing here, they had contingencies in place in case they were caught. We need to act fast to prevent their next move. We immediately contacted the authorities, alerting them to the new threat. The situation was urgent. While we were piecing together the information, we noticed something else disturbing. Alex and Taylor's escape plan had been set into motion. "Max, look at this," I said, pointing to a hidden compartment in one of the storage boxes. Inside were maps and diagrams, detailing their escape routes and contingency plans. Max's eyes widened. They were prepared for this. They must have known we were getting close. We hurried back to the warehouse, hoping to find any remaining clues. The precinct was buzzing with activity, and we were joined by a team of officers to search for more evidence. It didn't take long to realize that Alex and Taylor had managed to slip away, leaving behind a chaotic scene of incomplete evidence. "We've got to find them before they can pull off their next heist," Max said, frustration evident in his voice. "We've got their next target, the financial institution. But we don't have much time." As we raced against the clock, the urgency of our mission became clearer. We reviewed security footage and tracked their movements, piecing together their next steps. Max's expertise was invaluable, guiding us through the maze of their plans. At the financial institution, Max and I coordinated with security personnel, preparing for a potential breach. The tension was high as we awaited the arrival of Alex and Taylor. "Do you think they'll show up?" I asked Max, my anxiety mounting. "They have to," Max replied. "We've exposed their plan, and they'll want to go through with it to cover their tracks. We just need to be ready." Hours passed, and just when it seemed like we might have caught a break, the worst happened. Alex and Taylor never showed. Instead, we discovered that they had planned a new operation, having used my stolen data to advance their schemes further. Their escape was meticulously planned, leaving us with a trail of frustration and unanswered questions. As we debriefed with the authorities, I felt a wave of disappointment wash over me. The victory was bittersweet. We had managed to thwart one part of their plan, but the real damage was done. Alex and Taylor were still out there, their next move uncertain and potentially dangerous. Max and I exchanged a tired look. "We did what we could," Max said, his voice heavy. "But this isn't over. We need to keep pushing, stay vigilant." I nodded, feeling the weight of the situation. "I just hope we can stop them before they cause more harm." With the evening drawing to a close, the sense of accomplishment was overshadowed by the lingering threat. Alex and Taylor had escaped, and their operation was far from dismantled. The battle was far from over, and the uncertainty of their next move left us both on edge. As I walked away from the precinct, the city lights seemed to flicker with an ominous warning. The fight against Alex and Taylor had just begun, and I knew that the journey to bring them to justice was far from finished.